actually hold animals in enclosures, or what we call restricted areas, unlike a national park where you find the animals are free ranging. The main distinction, however, is that the Nairobi Animal Orphanage, since when it was established back in 1963, the idea was to have a home for animals which are either orphaned, injured, and animals that have been confiscated from people who are holding them without the necessary documents.
The orphanage is the oldest of its kind in Kenya and serves as an educational and training facility.
The orphanage was established in 1963 with the aim of giving a home to injured animals, orphaned animals, or animals that have been confiscated from people holding them without the necessary documents from Kenya Wildlife Service. So that was the initial idea. Then over time it also became a tourist attraction, because later on the government realized that in as much as we are providing a home, Kenyans also want to be able to see these animals. And in a national park, you need a vehicle to go in. But with the animals in captivity, you can actually just come, walk around on foot, and be able to see the animals. So over the years, the orphanage actually became one of the key attractions, especially for those within Nairobi, and more so school-going children. In Kenya, you'll realize that most people, their first interaction with Kenya Wildlife Service, and more often than not, their first interaction with wildlife has actually been through the Nairobi Animal Orphanage. One, it is that it is a guarantee, because you know, for a school kid, when they go for a game drive, they might not understand the full concept of a game drive. Because if you tell them within this park, you'll find these kind of animals. If they go for the game drive and they don't see the animals, some of the kids are so young that they'll say, okay, that park doesn't have lions. But now for a school group, when they come in, they are sure within the Nairobi Animal Orphanage, they'll find the lion, they'll find the leopard, they'll find the cheetah. So that is how actually most people in Kenya came to interact with wildlife.
You will find different animals and bird species in this space rehabilitated back to health after being abandoned and injured.
We have quite a number of lions, we have a leopard, we have cheetahs, buffalo, we have the crested crane, we have guinea fowl, we have a peacock, and various other wildlife. Now, because the animals that we receive at the Nairobi Animal Orphanage are not just sourced from a national park, they must have a story as to why they are being brought here. That is why this year you might come and find we have 4 cheetah cubs. Next year you find we have a buffalo calf, because there must be a reason as to why that animal is actually within our facility. And just by giving a quick example, as you come in, you'll find some warthogs there. One of it came here when it was very young. It was found by one of our members of staff. That day it had rained. The mother had, for one reason or another, abandoned the baby. So after our team monitored and realized the mother is not coming back, the warthog was brought here. For the guinea fowl that we have here, they were confiscated from illegal traders sometimes back.
It is a very interesting center, especially for families with children, where you can see cheetahs, lions, cubs, warthogs, monkeys, and various birds.
What makes Nairobi Animal Orphanage special is that it is a home to an animal that is already in distress. It is a home to an animal that out there in the wild, for one reason or another, its chances of survival were very limited. Either it was orphaned or it was injured. So the special thing about this facility is that that animal, at least when it is here, it is assured of veterinary care, it is assured of safety, it's assured of food, and so on.
You can also adopt an animal from as low as 1,000 Kenya shillings.
We do allow for adoption, and there are various categories that actually you can take, to do the adoption, which means that it is not limited to only people, with the big bags to do the adoption. Adoption in this case does not mean that you will carry away the animal. The animal will remain here, but your money will go a long way in ensuring that its welfare is well done in terms of food, veterinary services, housing, and so on. We also have people who want to name the animal. That one, the cost is a bit high. Like a few weeks ago, we had a team from Safaricom here. They came and adopted one of the cheetahs, and they are going to take care of it for the next 3 years. So it is open to corporate, it is open to individuals, only that you don't get to take away the animal from the Nairobi Animal Orphanage. In Kenya Wildlife Service, we do allow people to keep some of this wildlife, but you must have the necessary documents. However, you'll still find some people, trying to keep these animals, trading in these animals without the relevant documents. So that when that happens, and we come across such people, being the custodians of wildlife in the country, those animals are actually brought to the orphanage. Sometimes the case might be ongoing in court, but the court is not designed to keep some of these animals. That's how these animals end up here. We also have people who surrender animals that they had. For example, somebody had a permit, to keep a certain species. For one reason or another, he feels, I'm no longer able to keep this animal. What happens? Because we cannot take that animal back into the wild for a lot of reasons. One, it is used to being domesticated, used to being hand-reared and hand-fed. So the best home for that animal will actually be there is an issue, and this is how it's supposed to be handled.
As low as 1,000 Kenya shillings. The entry charges are very affordable for residents.
Nairobi Animal Orphanage is open from 8 in the morning. We close at 6 in the evening. Charges are very friendly because, like, for Kenyan citizens, currently a child citizen pays 125 shillings. An adult citizen pays 215 shillings. And for us, when we are talking of citizens, we are actually talking of members of the East African community. So somebody from Uganda, somebody from Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, they actually all pay as Kenyan citizens. Yeah, so we believe that the charges, are they are good enough for citizens who want to visit the And the enclosures are done in such a way that they mimic, or they try to mimic, the natural environment.
Consider Nairobi Safari Walk as an introduction to the Nairobi National Park.
For the Nairobi Safari Walk, you will find one of the key attractions there is the white rhino. He's called Dubai. He's been there for about 20 years. He has remained a key attraction because, you know, rhino in the world, in the country, they are endangered. These are not wildlife that you are able to see each and every other day. We also have the lions there, we have the leopards, we have buffalo, and other animal species.
Safari Walk allows you to enjoy a jungle-like trek on the elevated boardwalk.
The way the Safari Walk has been designed is to ensure that the animals that are showcased to members of the public in the evenings, they are actually in a safe sleeping quarter. More so because, one, the Safari Walk is big, which means a predator like a leopard might have jumped over the fence, and it is within that facility. So if we don't lock up these animals in the evenings, the chances of predation will be very high, because we have impala there, we have ostrich there, we have a giraffe there, which means that if they are left out in the open, chances of predation are very high. So the same system that we use for the Nairobi Animal Orphanage is the same system that we use for the Nairobi Safari Walk, ensuring that these wildlife in the evenings, they are actually in safe sleeping quarters.
Its raised wooden boardwalk allows for uninterrupted views of the animals. Visitors can see a sample of the country's rich animal life, including the rare bongo, white rhino, and albino zebra, as well as big cats, antelopes, and primates.
Our aim as is to see our wildlife out there, free-ranging in a very natural environment. However, there will always be those challenges, you know, of injured animals, orphaned animals. It puts us in a catch-22, because if that animal is brought here, probably injured, it means that there is very close human interaction. So what happens is that that animal